You've got questions about silencers? Well, we have the man with all the answers, Brandon Maddox from Silencer Central. Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Armscor, Vortex Optics, and GunDealio. Trigger the deals. All right, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. Today on Gun Talk Nation, we've got the man, the expert on all things silencers, Brandon Maddox from Silencer Central. Welcome in, sir.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Excited to be here. Appreciate you inviting us to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Silencer Central, you guys, I bet, have been pretty busy because it seems like a lot of people are talking about eForms. I mean, that's kind of the big news in the last couple of months, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's definitely something new. So anytime you have something new to talk about in the firearms industry, gets people excited. I always tell my team that there's always a lot of people on the fence waiting. They're looking for an excuse to jump into the game of, suppressed hunting, suppressed shooting. And I think the eForms is that thing that's pushing people over to the other side. And then, of course, even some of the war stuff that people are seeing on the internet and TV, it's got, we're seeing a whole lot more traffic just on all the firearms channels. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So you guys have noticed an uptick since the eForms went live.
Oh yeah, totally, for sure. So, like I said, it's a good message. I mean, we probably have, we're doing 75 to 85,000, customers a year. So when you email them and say, hey, we already have all of your information on file, we got your fingerprint on file, your fingerprints digitally, we got your photo, we got your gun trust. How would you like for us to upload that up to the ATF and get you, another suppressor rolling? So it's not too tough of a sell.
Now, I won't hold you to it, but I mean, at this point, I know you guys are helping a lot of customers buy silencers. Are you, what kind of time frames? Because that was the whole deal. The eForms were going to speed it up, because I have some that I did last year that I still don't have.
Right.
They were not eForms.
Sure.
And so, 10 or 11 months or whatever it might be. What are we seeing with eForms? What do we think it might be?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, you know me, I'm going to shoot straight with you. So here's what I learned at SHOT Show and sort of, an open meeting with ATF in their town hall. And then actually every year we have a meeting with ATF senior leadership at SHOT Show. And usually we have one at a compliance conference in May, but just in discussions with ATF, their concern is that everyone that has one waiting in paper is going to pull it out. So I think that because of that fear that they have, that's legitimate fear, they're not processing eForms right now at all, which I know is what people don't want to hear. And yeah, so, but there's good news to that. So I should clarify. So here's what their message was. Their message was ATF NFA branch said, we got 50,000 applications in March of 2021. They felt like it was due to social unrest, just higher demand for suppressors. And they said it's going to take them 4 to 5 months to plow through that. And I got the impression that they were not going to start approving eForms until they're done with March of 2021. So again, that's not horrible, because if the timeline for paper has been, 10, 12 months, to be able to wait 4 or 5 and then they start doing the digital, that's great. But the hard part is, I would guess that eForms with ATF went live December of 23rd, 2021. I bet they have 100,000 already. But the reality is, because they already told us a couple weeks ago they had 50 trending to 75,000. So so it sounds like a bad message that eForms it's working. That's a good feedback. Having sat with kind of the chief technology officer for the ATF, I 100% buy into their commitment to make sure it works. We see updates daily. I have about 20 people that's all they do all day long is work on eForms, as far as submitting them for the customers, talking to the customers while they're submitting them. So I'm getting a pulse daily on how the website does. Some days aren't great. Some days are good. They had some headaches when they first launched. I think they're working through them. My take home is they're making changes and enhancing it real time. So they're committed to making it better. Are we where we want to be right now? Probably not. Do I feel like we're heading in the right direction? Yes. But I think that once they start approving them, some of them will probably have waited for 4 or 5 months. But I think after that, they're going to just start flowing through very quickly. So it's not a great sales message for me, right? If my goal is to sell suppressors, to say, hey, you still got a little bit of wait. But if we can cut it in half, 4 to 5 months from 10 months, or the other flip side of it is at least your name's in the hopper and you're waiting on one. And you know it's going to be quicker than if you did it via paper. But so not to confuse the issue further, but back in 2013 and 14, when ATF first launched eForms, we saw a load balance. So whatever the wait time was for paper was also the same wait time for digital. It just less people were submitting paper. So when you did submit one there, it went through the same time frame as digital. So
interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Or you could just be like what my buddy said earlier to me today. He goes, people talk about the wait times. He goes, if you buy a suppressor every couple months, then you always have one coming in.
Yeah, no, totally. And I get the whole wait thing. I mean, because I worked, gun shows for 15, 17 years. So guys will be like, I don't want the wait time. And I'm like, dude, I've been talking to you every year at this show for like 15 years. If you had bought one the first time you and I talked about it, you'd have a ton of them already. So, it's almost just like, biting the bullet. I mean, and again, it sounds like a Silencer Central sales pitch, but we let you pay while you wait. So it's like, what's the hassle? We're going to do everything for you digitally. We're going to upload your fingerprints, your photo, your trust. We're going to let you pay while you wait. So the goal is we're going to make it simple. So don't think about all that, stuff you're going to have to do paper or pay up front. We're going to fix that and make it easy for you. So
Brandon, what are the top couple questions that you get when someone is making their first silencer purchase?
Yeah, it's a good question. What are the first questions we get? So I'd say one question is product. So, they'll say, hey, should I look at trying to get one suppressor that I can use for everything? Should I try to get something for, pistol only and then something for rifle only? Should I get something for rimfire only? Or sometimes that's probably one of the bigger questions. I think that really the honest truth is that might be a question that the consumers that come up are maybe not even well informed enough to even know that that's an option. So that's kind of something that we do talk about, that, hey, if your goal is to find one, we can help you find one that's going to kind of fit everything. If you feel like you focus 90% of your shooting on a rifle, let's do a rifle one, and then let's talk about the rimfire and pistol later. So I'd say that's one of the biggest questions. I think the second biggest question is, my local dealer says I should buy it as an individual because the trust is harder. So they kind of come to the table, this preconceived notion that, they don't want to do the trust. So our goal is to sort of educate the consumer that, from our perspective, the trust really is the only way to go. And it's not a sales pitch from us. Silencer Central gives you the trust free, manages it for you. I've seen videos where you're hunting with your daughter. So I know that, from your perspective personally, you would probably like a scenario where you could share it. And if for some reason you couldn't be there to hunt, that your family members or friends could be there with it. And then it's kind of taken care of once you pass away from a legacy standpoint. So the trust is a big question we get too. I think the other question too is just process. How am I going to get you the fingerprints? How am I going to get you the photo? How am I going to do this trust? And, just sort of helping the customer realize we're going to take on that burden and make it happen for you and send you text messages as reminders every 30 days if you don't do it.
And look, I will freely admit, I in the past have had silencers sitting with like my local guy who does it for me, and he's going, dude, are you ever going to fill out this freaking paperwork?
Totally.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm busy, I've been traveling, whatever, and it'll go months and months. And you guys do, the best thing you do is you make it super easy for people to get them. And that sounds like a sales pitch for what you guys do. But I think for me, that's the biggest deal. Like the wait time, okay, whatever. It's not great, but you just forget about it. But I think the fact that you send the fingerprint kit and, he upload your photo with your phone, like this is easy stuff. Using technology to make it easier.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like I said in the past, like we worked really closely with the ATF on how can we make sure that we do this right, but also, make it easier for the customers. And they've been very open to different ways for us to do things all digitally. And the goal has always been to make life easier on the customer. Because my experience is if it's easier for the customer, then obviously they're gonna spend more money and like it. But you're right. I would say that it used to drive my CPA nuts that 10% of people that we would never really hear back from after they purchased to do their paperwork. It was just kind of a known number. But then we put more automation in place where we're sending them text messages and telling them to go check their email. And that's really gotten it down where we rarely see anyone that doesn't follow through once we just continue to kind of send them reminders and make sure it's super easy. Because, if you are traveling and you get a DocuSign that you just have to sign, it's a whole lot easier than, having to go to a local dealer and do the paperwork and meet face to face and hope they're open and hope the guy that you're working with is actually there. And so, yeah,
you'll find a notary.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. So we've got all that hammered out. We even got a trust without a notary, which is nice. So
that's awesome. All right, we'll be right back after a couple quick messages. Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by several great companies, the first one being Vortex Optics. New from Vortex, the Strike Eagle 1 to 8 power. 1 to 8 power. We wouldn't have even thought this was possible years ago, but this is perfect for your next AR build. It's a true 1 power on the low end, so it's almost like having a red dot for real close-up work or fast shooting, and then you can crank it up to 8 power, make those longer shots. The AR BDC-3 illuminated glass-etched reticle is specifically tuned to the ballistic performance of a common 5.56 loads. Check them out, vortexoptics.com. And then Armscor Rock Island Armory, the STK 100 9mm. This is a pistol that came out, I guess, last year or so, and we really liked it. It's a first striker-fired pistol from them, but it's an aluminum frame, 1911 grip ankle, because obviously they come from that 1911 heritage. The extended beaver tail, again, 1911 heritage, but it's a 17-round capacity and updated optics plate, universal for micro dots, so you can mount it, get going. The MSRP on this thing has been lowered. It's actually only $499 now. Check out armscor.com. Now, Brandon, we got to talk about the new Banish 46, because this is like the big daddy. I mean, tell people what it is, what's it good for.
Yeah, good question. So Banish 46. So, there's this concept of people that say, hey, you know what? I want a suppressor that I can kind of use on everything. And when I say everything, I mean big bore, I mean straight wall cartridges, I mean rimfire, I mean handgun, like everything. Mm-hmm. So when someone's looking for something like that, the Banish 46 fits that category. It's sort of evolved from a lot of states are requiring straight wall cartridges for hunting deer in some states. We're in South Dakota, so it's an issue next door with Iowa and next door with Minnesota, the parts of the states where it's higher population densities. You can't use a rifle, you have to use straight wall cartridges. Theory is the bullet won't travel as far. So that's kind of where it started. But a lot of those cartridges are getting hot, more popular, 350 Legend, 450, 458 SOCOM. So we looked at what was available on the market and we said, hey, we think that the customer really wants an all titanium model because it's lighter. We think that the customer wants a 46 product they can take apart and clean. A lot of the pistol rounds that you shoot out there, they're not jacketed, so you can get some lead buildup. So you want to be able to take it apart and clean it. So really the Banish 46 fits that mark. I think that the most impressive thing for me is seeing guys use it on like a 338, which is very cool because it can handle the big bore stuff too. So
it's the pressure. Right? I mean, just in case someone's listening to this, like, oh, I have a 45 can for my pistol. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Careful.
Totally.
You probably can't shoot a 45-70 through your 45 ACP can.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, like the hottest round you can typically use through a 45 is going to be like, maybe, like a subsonic 300 blackout or, something like that. Yeah. But definitely it's a hot market. People looking for that 46 and, it does seem like a lot of the hunters like that idea of, okay, I could buy one, use it on my 338, but I could still also use it on my 30 cal. And if I, for some reason, wanted to get a threaded barrel from a handgun, I could use it on there as well. Comes apart to clean. It's lightweight. It's titanium. Yeah, it's super popular. I mean, it's doing really, really well. I got a text from a customer of mine. You guys probably familiar. Well, you're down in the Southeast, like, I'm an SEC fan. So Bo Jackson said, hey, I think I need one of those. And I'm like, Bo, I'm thinking you get one free from me.
Being the Auburn alum guy. Yeah.
Well, my dad went to Auburn, so you're right. I'm a huge Auburn guy. So yeah, when Bo Jackson texts you, it's funny because he stores his silencers here in South Dakota. So he and I have a trust together. So he's on the trust. He stores them here, and wherever he's hunting, Texas or Georgia or something, our company will mail them to him where he has access to them, and then he'll send them back when he's done hunting. So that's another benefit of a trust, really, is having them in a state where they're not lawful. So federal law says they're lawful everywhere, but state laws preclude people from owning them in certain areas. areas. So of course, Bo Jackson's in Illinois. He can't possess one there, but he could be on a trust and own one as part of a trust. And then we just store them in here in South Dakota and then ship them to him, or he uses them when he comes to South Dakota to hunt.
And that's something someone could set up with a relative or a friend or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you hear that a lot. I mean, it was bigger when we first started, because a lot of guys, they would maybe live in Minnesota, but they would hunt in North Dakota for prairie dogs or coyotes, and they would put the silencer in a safety deposit box in North Dakota because the bank doesn't consider it a firearm. They would store it there, and every time they drove through, pick it up, go use it, and then put it back in the safety deposit box. So yeah, there's definitely ways that we can work with people where you're within the law, but you could also use it, for hunting applications when you're not in a state. As long as you're in a state where it's lawful, you're fine.
Now, going back to the Banished 46, I mean, it's bigger because it's got to be not only strong, but it's got to have the volume to really work with those bigger bore rifles. How much bigger is it than like a 30 cal can, like the Banished 30?
Yeah, good question. So, that the other thing to bring up too is it's modular, so you can make it shorter. Because sometimes people think about bigger meaning also like it's actually longer as well. So gosh, I don't know if I want that much length on there, but the diameter is going to be a 1.7, and if you think of like say a 30 cal, like a Banished 30, it's going to be 1.5. So it is a little bit bigger there. In the short configuration, you're still at 16 ounces. So I mean, when I first looked at it, I thought, it feels a little long, but I'm like, okay, it's modular. So, if a guy wants the full suppression, he can leave the full length on there. But then if he wants to, shorten it up, he can, which is a nice benefit. We've done a good job testing against others out on the market, and the design is like significantly different than the others. And we're finding everyone's really pleased with the amount of suppression it has. It's hard because it really covers pretty much anything that you can suppress. But when we look at, the 338s, the short wall cartridges, even the pistols, it does a phenomenal job, which is great.
Yeah, that is. And that's the thing, because 30 cal, there was kind of this leap, I think, there's a 30 cal can, and if you wanted to go bigger than that, basically you had, and I guess in the old days, several years back, they were cans developed for like 50 cal or like 338 Lapua, like giant, like sniper cans that weren't maybe as conducive for like, I just want to put it on my hunting gun, my 35 Whelen or whatever it might be.
True.
So I like that you guys are kind of saying, wait, here's something for you guys. And even if you shorten it, all that's doing is reducing a little bit of the volume. Maybe it's not quite as quiet, but you can still shoot all the same calibers through it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. Totally. And that's a good point on the evolution, because I remember when I first started doing this, gosh, I've been doing it since 2005. So back then, honestly, it was rare that you ever sold anyone a suppressor like in a 30 cal that they would use on a 223. They would really buy both. But back then, everyone was making them 100% skill, and it was really too heavy to put a 30 cal suppressor on a 223. But now with the Banish, 30 cal, all titanium, it's like, it's not a problem. Guys are 100% comfortable with, hey, that titanium is lighter than what I had in a 223 can anyway. So let's put that 30 cal in the 223. So you're right. You've seen an evolution of what people are willing to use and how they use it. And you're right. The 50 cals, AWC makes a good one that we sell that's all titanium, that's nice and light. But, other than that, it is so big. Unless you're using it on a Barrett or something, you're not going to want to put it on, anything else sub caliber.
Yeah, some giant 18-pound gun that you're only shooting in a prone position. Who cares how big the silencer is? But if you're actually going to try to hike it up a mountain and you're using a 338 Win Mag, you want something that's more conducive to that.
Yeah, totally.
So it's very cool. We'll be right back after this message. I bet you don't think pistols when I say Savage Arms, but that's exactly one of their new guns, the new EDC handgun, the Stance from Savage. This is kind of a new platform for them, but it features aggressive stippling that wraps 360 degrees around the grip. So you kind of have it on all sides, help you grip the gun, shoot the gun. It's a compact 9mm, comes with 2 interchangeable back straps, small or large size grips. Check out savagearms.com. Also, Smith & Wesson, the CSX, brand new platform from Smith. Man, these gun companies keep coming out with more stuff. The CSX is a hammer-fired micro 9mm, and I'll be honest with you, this is a real shooter for being such a small gun. It's also aluminum alloy frame, ambi-thumb safety, interchangeable back straps, changeable mag release button, and it comes with a 10-round magazine and an extended 12-round magazine. Check that one out, the CSX, at smith-wesson.com. So, Brandon, let's talk about best practices in taking care of silencers, because you guys will talk about modularity and disassembly and taking the baffles out. Kind of what did we have in the past, and now it seems like we keep seeing these improvements year after year.
Yeah, good question. What we heard from the customers working shows over the years, face to face, especially the hunting crowd, is, hey, I want to be able to take it apart and clean it. So the Banish products you can take apart and clean. Typically we recommend like CLR, calcium lime rust remover. It's basically acid, but you can take the baffles out, throw them in there, and it's going to eat the carbon right off of those. So then the question is,
soak it in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just throw the baffles right in there and let them soak in there. Some guys will do half and half, like half water, half CLR. But usually I use the full stuff, because that titanium can handle basically that acid. It's not going to be a problem. It eats the carbon right off. Some people will say, hey, you don't need to clean your suppressor. And there's a lot of people that say, hey, I want to see inside. I want to be able to clean it. Is the jury out? Who knows? I mean, listen to the customer. Customer wants to be able to take it apart and clean it. They feel like it hurts their accuracy if it's got a lot of carbon buildup. People feel like their suppressors get louder if you start getting so much buildup, you're losing the ability to capture that gas volume. Mm-hmm. So we sort of bought into that concept of, hey, the customer wants to be able to clean it, and if it's in your head, you're more accurate and you're quieter when it's clean. Hey, we're running with it. Our tests have shown that it does make it quieter if you clean it occasionally. And so the only take home there is, how often should I clean it? The problem is we have tools where you can push the baffles out, but sometimes if you wait too long, then it's hard to get the baffles out. So usually we'll say every couple hundred rounds, just because the baffles are carboned up, but not too carboned up where you can't get them out.
Okay. What if somebody says, all right, Brandon, I think I waited too long. Yeah, is there a solution to get the baffles out when it's really bad?
Yeah, totally. So you could soak in WD-40, believe it or not. Just like put the whole can in WD-40 for a couple of days, and then usually it pops right out. And what's cool is we have a baffle removal tool that actually screws into like the 5/8 by 24 or the 1/2 by 28, the threads on the suppressor. And then it has a brass fitting that pushes against the actual titanium, and it's on a crank wheel, and you just start turning it, and it just starts pushing the baffles out. So it's kind of cool. I mean, the other cool thing about taking the baffles apart and cleaning them is all the baffles are the same. So it doesn't matter what order you put them back in. And I know a shooter is typically concerned about wear. They're concerned that first baffle may get too much wear. So what we always say is, hey, the Banished 30, the baffles are all the same. Take them apart, put them back in any order you want, and you're not going to have that wear on the first baffle, because the first baffle is always moving. It's, it's, since there's 8 in there, every time you move it around, it's going to be at a different place.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Because there is more pressure or more wear on that very first baffle.
Yeah. And people worry about that unburnt powder sort of being almost like a sandblast to it. So, it makes sense to take it apart, clean it, clean up that area. We've not seen wear. I mean, people always think titanium, you're going to get wear, it's going to start pitting. We just don't see that. And we think the reason why we don't see that is because ours aren't sealed. You can take the Banish products apart. You can clean them. You can rotate the baffle. So that first one's not getting that, all that blast every time.
Yeah. So one of the other things you guys do that I like is, while you're waiting for your suppressor to be processed by the ATF, you'll say, hey, you want us to thread something for you? Like thread the barrel if you're going to go direct thread. One of the things that I've run into, locally, you're kind of like, okay, oh, I know a guy who's got a machine shop, or a guy who dabbles in gunsmithing. I'm like, man, I've seen those dabbles in gunsmithing guys, and like them putting sights on a pistol, and the sight ends up kind of crooked, and going, I don't want to know if I want him to thread my barrel. Right. But I mean, you guys have people there that do it?
Yeah, good question. So, it's interesting. Honestly, it started out more as like a warranty issue thing. So what we were finding was literally 100% of the suppressors that came back were for a baffle strike, and 100% of the time it was the rifle wasn't threaded properly. So that was one issue. The other issue is, just me working shows, I could see what you're talking about. The guy would be like, I don't know if I want to buy a silencer because I don't trust the guy at home to thread it. So it's like, okay, there's an opportunity for us to get rid of our warranty claims, and also an opportunity for us to satisfy this customer that's not clear where they're going to get their barrel threaded. So yes, we have a CNC lathe here, TL2, that we have a machinist that runs all day long, and we have a gunsmith that takes the rifles apart. So essentially we'll mail you an empty gun case. You put your rifle in that, you ship it to us, we thread it, ship it back, and you get to keep the case. And I think it's got our name on the case, so you have a new gun case.
Awesome.
But yeah, we're doing about 200 rifles a day. So
wow.
Yeah, it's impressive. You should come up here someday and watch. We actually have a nice big window so you can look in and watch them thread it. I mean, the take home is it takes 90 seconds to thread a barrel because it's computer programmed threading. So it threads it quick. So you're spending 20, 30 minutes taking the firearm apart, getting the barrel out and threading it. But yeah, I mean, the beauty of doing it that way is that we have lasers that check it to make sure it's aligned properly and that everything's going to seat properly. It gives people confidence that, it's done on a CNC machine, it's laser checked, and we check all the threads. So yeah, it essentially got rid of any warranty claims overnight. And then I think it also helped people but get more comfortable, with, hey, I see you guys are going to, ship out this case. I think I'm going to take advantage of it. What's interesting is I would have never guessed this, but during hunting season, we don't get that many guns in. But after hunting season, we'll have 200 guns a day for, the next 7 or 8 months.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Guys are funny about their guns. They don't want to be, they don't want to be away from them. It's like, I don't want to be away from me that long. What if I don't get it back? I got to go hunting.
Yeah. Like these guys don't already have, 5 or 10 or 15 other guns they could use probably.
Totally. 100%. Totally.
Well, and I like what you said, because my thought process went to this was like, wait, am I going to have to take the barrel off the gun?
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to want that, but just ship the whole gun.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the only thing we say is take accessories off. And it's not because we don't mind taking them off. It's just that they get beat up in the mail and then we get beat up online for, they let my scope get beat up. It's like, gosh, if you didn't put any wrapping in there and you sent your, expensive optics to us, it's hard for us to guarantee it. But, FedEx does a good job with us. A lot of people sort of frown upon the whole firearms thing, but we've got a good working relationship with FedEx Ground, and we send you the cases that sends them back. We thread them and send them back to you. So what I love is we have someone that's all he does as a gunsmith is take the firearms apart. And then I have someone else who 100% all he does is he's a machinist and he runs the, computerized CNC machine. So I love the idea of, I'm glad our volume is large enough that I have 2 separate people doing it, because I wouldn't want just one or the other doing both of those functions.
Yeah. So, all right, Brandon, what else are you seeing in the realm of silencers these days? What are the trends?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the trend is that more people are getting into it for hunting. I think that Silencer Central being based in South Dakota, me kind of starting as a prairie dog hunter, I think our natural sort of tendency is we probably lead to a lot of people that are getting into it for hunting. I think that, when I first started doing this, most states it wasn't legal to hunt in. So thanks to the American Suppressor Association and sort of their local advocacy, now 40 out of 42 states, you can actually hunt with a suppressor. So your only 2 states you can't hunt with are Connecticut and Vermont. So everywhere else is opened up for hunting. I think too, with a lot of states opening up the regulations where you can hunt at night, where you can use infrared, you can shoot hogs and coyotes and things like that. People are seeing the benefits of hunting with suppressors. I think there was at time, it was like, is this a fair chase issue? I always give guys a hard time. I used to see some old timers at the gun shows and they're like, it's giving you an unfair advantage. And I'm like, yeah, you remind me of the guy when, the scopes first came out. You thought that was giving it just sort of,
you can kill deer with iron sights. Why do you need a magnified scope on there?
Yeah, totally. So it's the same, sort of, but I think that I think even the industry is getting over that. I mean, we work with a lot of conservation and advocacy groups and hunting. And I sense that even their boards are typically, have a little bit grayer hair. And so it's taken years of us meeting with them, having a couple drinks with them, explaining to them what Silencer Central does, maybe taking them on a hunt, letting them experience it, and their mind changes 100%. So I think it's just been an evolution. I remember the first time I called the NRA and said I wanted to advertise a Class 3 item in their journal. gosh, you would think that I wanted to put, some kind of like left-wing Democrat liberal, so it's an evolution. And that was like, 15 years ago. So it's just an evolution of convincing people these are evil, convincing people that they're legitimate, convincing people there's a benefit, convincing people that, Silencer Central makes it easy to get. And I think we're now starting to see the fruits of that. So the hunters are really getting into it in my mind. Before it was an easy message of, gosh, I take 3 shots a year for my deer hunting, 2 to sight it in, 1 to shoot it. What do I need a suppressor for? But then they see their buddy sitting next to them, the one, and they're like, you know what? I'm thinking that might be something nice I need.
Yeah. You don't get your ears rung sitting in a blind. You may like predator hunting, you may have follow-up shots or a shot on another animal that's with, in the pack or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There's just a ton of advantages that we've seen over the years, and especially lately. And the fact that they're getting lighter, they're getting easier to put on. Direct thread is more common these days. Those are all great things that I'm enjoying about it. And I mean, it's funny because to me, suppressors are such a benign thing. It's
totally.
They have this weird little stigma about them, but I mean, come on, it's a muffler, and it does not make things what you see in the movies, right? We all know that at this point. I hope we do. I mean, it helps bring the decibel level down, but I mean, what's a regular rifle going to be dB wise, and what's a suppressed gun going to be?
Yeah, so you're going to see like 167, 170 decibels without a suppressor, and it's going to take it down to less than 140.
Yeah. So it can make it hearing safe,
right?
But it's still not like silent.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think, like you're saying, there's still a ton of room for education. I mean, I feel like that the gun community is getting it, but laws are typically enacted by the voters, which is more than just people that are into the firearms specifically. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity for education. My wife brought a lady over here the other day, and we have, if you ever come here, we have a cage with like $70 million worth of suppressors. And the lady looks up there and she's like, I find it disturbing. There's this much demand in America for these things. So after I gave her kind of the educational speech, I could tell she calmed down and she goes, okay, all right, that makes sense. I'm okay with it. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a muffler. What?
Yeah, totally.
What's the big deal?
Exactly.
Oh man. All right. Well, Brandon, how do they find out more about what you guys are up to?
Yeah, good question. So, I would say obviously hop on Google, do a Google search for Silencer Central, go to silencercentral.com. I still recommend pick up the phone and call us, if you have questions. I mean, it doesn't mean you got to buy something just because you talk to the customer service or sales team. We got 40 people here answering the phone that would love to sort of educate you on the process, educate people on what's available, educate people about, wait times. Just, I think that the first step is, hey, pick up the phone, call us, learn more about it. Sometimes people, you ask about questions they ask, how are you able to mail a suppressor to my front door? The reminder I have is that we have a physical location in all 42 states where suppressors are legal. So the silencer would be mailed from our location in the state where you live directly to your front door. So,
gotcha.
And that's why I pay income tax, and at all 42 of these states that have income tax, we pay sales tax in all those states. So we have a physical location, we have employees there. So we have a bigger network than just what we have in Sioux Falls. We're just based here.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Brandon, thanks for being our answer man when it comes to suppressors. Silencer Central, you guys are doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, be sure to tell your father hello. It was great to see him at SHOT Show.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. And you guys stay warm up there, and hope to get up there to see you guys soon.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
All right. That's it for us. We will see you guys all next time on Gun Talk Nation.